The Hive has a lot of maps, and some of them are remembered more than others. Some are iconic maybe due to how the map plays out, its looks, how the community views it, or simply being classic. So in this video, I'm going through every Hive game that has maps, and highlighting the most iconic ones in my opinion, while also explaining why I think they are the most iconic. Let's start off with Skywars. Skywars Solos is a difficult one to start off with, but 3 maps come to mind. The first one's Pillars. This map is simple, the smallest map in the game, and because of those 2 things, there was a whole speedrunning war on this map. Although not being the first 4 to come out, this was one of the older maps, which definitely helped. Ivory. I thought of this map because it always wins, and I'm not sure why. It's arguably the most played solos map, and my guess is that it's the easiest map to get around on. Like, you really only need to bridge to the semi-mid on this map, and then you're set to roam around the rest of the map. Which for newer players, this might actually be a good thing. But overall, I think Baroque is the most iconic map. This map has been universally accepted in the Hive community for the gameplay and because it just looks awesome. All of the other maps look nice, but this one literally towers over you. Now on to duos. This one's also difficult, but 3 maps come to mind. First one's Utopia. Okay, hear me out here. This map is a rare exception where it's iconic because a lot of people don't like it. Over time, I actually kinda like playing on this map, and the 2-floor middle kinda stands out to me. But the most iconic part of this map, despite being kinda bad to other people, is that this is the Hive thumbnail map. There's so many Hive videos with Utopia in the thumbnail. Elite Koala specifically using it as it's a part of his thumbnail style. Second one is Anora. This is another really good duos map. It's good for traversing around, and middle is great for having fights, and it just looks awesome. It's kinda like the duos version of Baroque. Last one's Meadow. Both Anora and Meadow are awesome, but I think Meadow slightly beats Anora. Meadow has a unique island layout, a fun hilly middle, and has a lot more resources leading to higher trapping potential, which is why I think Meadow slightly beats Anora. Now on to trios/squads. Armada. This map has a very unique team island and just looks striking in general. A very fun map to play. Spellbrook. This map might be one of the most played Hive maps with interesting team and middle islands with the underground sections. However, Spellbrook is a close second as I think Castle is the most iconic map. With the exception of Spellbrook, this map has the most intense gameplay because of its flat middle, and being one of the first Skywars maps has definitely helped. Both Spellbrook and Castle are definitely the 2 maps you see the most when a Hive creator 1v1 someone. These 2 maps are very iconic. Okay, now this one's actually interesting. For Skywars Megas, I think it has to be Shrine. Sky Kingdom was originally going to be my choice here. I mean, come on, just look at it. But whenever I play Megas, Shrine always wins. Alright, let's quit screwing around here. Murder Mystery's most iconic map is Office. As soon as this map came out, it has been the most voted map, and I think it's because of the size. It's really small, and there's a lot of coins to collect, although not being a bad map for the murderer. Also, that vent is just simply iconic, and this map is so iconic that Backrooms literally infected it. The most common Backrooms variant is Office, and sometimes even on Office you can see the Backrooms in the fish tank. Let's move on to Treasure Wars. Solos I feel like is Mushroom, a community favorite map because of the size and the side rushing. Whenever I think of Sumo or maybe Free Shop, I also think of this map. Maps like Library and Castle are also really iconic with the same perks as Mushroom, but I think Mushroom just does it a little bit better. Duos is a bit more difficult to choose from because there's so many good duos maps. We have maps like Gates, Atlantis, and Stranded being fantastic all in their own ways, but I think overall Cityscape is the most iconic duos map. I definitely think of this map when I think of Treasure Wars as a whole, and this map is one of the oldest maps with awesome gameplay. Now trios... Okay, it's obviously Tropical, let's be real here. The map that is plagiarized by these guys. But for good reason, it's just a really good map. Tropical is by far the easiest map to get around on, gaining popularity by the best players for grinding and usually making very intense games. And now that's what Tropical is known for. Other maps like Cyberspace, Hanging Gardens, Pirates, and Temple are iconic and very awesome maps too, but Tropical just goes a little ahead of it. You know, Megas is interesting to choose from. My original thought was Western because it was one of the first maps. I also thought of other maps like Titan and Kingdom, but the more I think about it, I think it's Resort. Now the map itself is pretty unique, being diagonal, but when I think about Megas, I think about all those big custom server games that happened on this map when custom servers were still in beta. The most iconic hide and seek map is easily Gold Rush, one of the best hide and seek maps, and likely the one if you ask anyone they'll know what it is. It's kinda crazy how even though this map is kinda small compared to the other hide and seek maps, it still has a lot of depth and places to hide. Capture the Flag probably is the most difficult one to choose. It really depends on who you ask, but I think overall I'll say that Unearth is the most iconic map. It's one of the first maps to come out, and when I think about this game, I think about this map. This map is also very small, making it one of the best maps to speedrun on. Now I'm going with Unearth here, but I completely understand if maps like maybe Empire or Campsite also come to mind, or even Oryx with just how awesome it looks. Death Run is interesting. My first pick was School, and that's probably because of the length of the map, making it one of the quickest maps to complete, and also because of how many times I played on this map. But the more I think about it, I think Zoo also deserves to be here. One of the oldest Death Run maps with unique gameplay, and it really stands out even to this day. I feel like the Bridge's most iconic map has to be the City variant, more specifically the classic one. This was the only map for the Bridge until August this year, so by default it kinda makes sense. However, this classic variant perfectly complements the other variants, so I think as a whole the city maps are the most iconic. The most iconic map in survival games is obviously SG4. It was a staple map back then, and today it's a favorite to a lot of people. All of the other maps are awesome, but SG4 just goes a little ahead of all of them with the depth and detail. Like, it's unbelievable how many secrets that this map has, while also being nostalgic to some people. Alright, let's go to Gravity. So to make things more interesting, I'll be dividing the iconic maps into each difficulty. Easy difficulty I feel like is definitely Beanstalk, an overall fun and simple Gravity map. Medium difficulty is a bit more difficult to choose, but I'll go with Lily Pads here. Now hard difficulty is tough because there's a surprising amount of maps I could go with here. Triangles is by far the most simplistic and recognizable map, but Under the Sea and Geometric might be iconic because of their extreme difficulty, but I think I'll go with Geometric here for its consistent hard gameplay. Honestly, Ground Wars is the toughest one. No iconic map comes to mind for me, and I'm not sure why. The only map I can think of is either Azure or the Inferno, and that's because those ones are played often and they're pretty cool. However, I think the Snow Wars maps probably would have beaten these two maps if they were permanent. And lastly, Block Drop. There isn't a map that stands out enough for it to be iconic because, well, there shouldn't be. I mean, it's TNT Run after all. Although I'm gonna have to go with Room here. When I think of Block Drop, I think of the first Block Drop maps, which this one was the most memorable out of the three. I feel like I'm shrunken down into this little Hive universe inside of this room, and it has a lot of Hive references. The colors of the room and the colors of Block Drop also just go well together. So that's why I think that Room is the most iconic Block Drop map. So those are the most iconic maps in each Hive game. Let me know down below what you think are some of the most iconic Hive maps. Now click here to know some weird things about some Hive maps.